Hello, everyone, and welcome to Four Lads Rangers Monday Night Show. It's your shiny show with your I was going to say three favourites, but, well, Kenny, Davie, and myself. Hopefully, there's some favourites in there somewhere. Gentlemen, good evening. How are we? Rangers won. God, it feels good and relieved.
First time in several weeks that Rangers haven't ruined my weekend, mate, so things are on the up, hopefully.
Davie, how are you, mate?
No bad. We need to get Americans over to watch us because that's the twice they've been over. It's the twice we haven't lost recently. So tell them to stay here.
Well, they're staying for Thursday, Davie, so let's hope it continues, that's for sure. Folks, welcome to the show. Thanks, everybody already in the comments saying hello. We'll get a few of them up as soon as possible. But, gents, we all saw the game on Saturday. Davie, first of all, what was your thoughts on Saturday's match and performance?
I thought we were flattered a bit to be 2 up at half time, if I'm honest. I didn't think we played particularly well going forward in the first half. And I thought we were a bit wide open to long balls over the top of our defence. I always thought, in the way things were heading into the game on Saturday, that it would be quite important that we scored the first goal and they didn't. And the way things worked out, they could have scored the first goal. They nearly scored the first goal, but they didn't. And we managed to get it. And I think that made a big difference for the rest of the day. I'm not going to sit here and say we were sparklingly good, but I thought our midfield play was a lot more cohesive than it has been lately. We scored 2 goals, we kept a clean sheet. Hibs are a decent team. I mean, they finished third in the league last year, so that was one of our better opponents, wasn't it? So I think we should try and be a wee bit glass half full and basically say that there's a mountain still to climb, but at least we've taken the first step onto it.
Yeah, Kenny, what was your thoughts on the game? Can you unmute and tell us?
I'll start again then.
That was a bit never sounded, to be fair.
I thought the first half hour was a bit meh, and I just got the feeling that when Martin Boyle's goal was disallowed, it kind of stirred them up a little bit. I don't know if the murmurings from the stands kind of kicked them on a little bit. And listen, I agree with Davie. I think the 2 goals are being 2 up a little, flattered as a little. But second half, we kind of controlled that game, I think. And I do feel that when you analyse the whole game, a win's a win, mate. And we've got through a tie. We're in the semi-finals. If we can bring that into a league form, then hopefully we'll start picking up. But I mean, I think Raskin made a massive difference. That is, if I'm cutting to the chase on it, I think he just made a big difference to the team. And that's about it, really. To take the win, move on to next week, try and build on it, and see where we go from there.
Yeah, listen, I thought that we were much better on the ball, first of all. And I thought it's going to sound a bit funny, but you could clearly see that they had worked on things. So that was progress for me. But as it got forward, and it got to maybe about Asgard and that kind of bit, just before you want the wingers and the front man to start getting into it, then it looked like we kind of ran out of ideas. So we were much better on the ball. Most of it came from Nico Raskin. And Diamandi was very good at holding position. He was quietly very effective. So I thought, as a base, that was a lot better. Now, we got undone by a long ball, which we got caught. And if you notice that, it wasn't, that was too open, right? So we all know that, and we all know that Martin Boyle is going to be a threat. And I did have a wry smile because he was giving it plenty to the enclosure, only to get it pulled back. So it was a wee get it up you to him because he was certainly giving us it tight. So I kind of enjoyed that. But I thought we were worthy of being ahead at halftime at least because we were the better side. But again, there's the age-old adage, Davie, of we're not creating enough and we're not doing enough. And in the final third, but it was, look, I've been critical for weeks and weeks and weeks, but to give them credit, they were a lot better on the ball. They were a lot better in possession. it's almost like they get to a point and then they're a wee bit unsure. And I'm just hoping that will come. Right, that's the positive side of me, is hoping that will come. But we were definitely a lot better on the ball, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think we had a better shape about us going forward as well, with Gassama on the left instead of the right again. He was by far our most dangerous attacking threat. I'm not 100% sure that young Moore has quite settled in at Rangers yet. I still think he's finding his feet. I'm not totally convinced he's a winger, if I'm honest. I'm not quite sure what his best position is yet. But Majowski is a goal scorer, but I'm not sure that he's a centre forward that kind of leads the line, if you know what I mean, holds the ball up. He hardly touched the ball in the first 40 odd minutes. In fact, I was getting texts to ask if he was actually playing, and then he scored. But you're right. Going forward is still a work in progress. I still think young Curtis should have more of a role to play in the team than he has done over the last few weeks. I think he gives us more of a direct goal threat out wide than Moore does. Although I thought Ant-Man played quite well when he came on Saturday. He looked quite tricky. He looked as if he was quite willing to take players on. But we were 2 up by then. So yeah, there's loads of work to do going forward. But in saying all that, before the game, would you have taken 2-0? Absolutely, you'd have bitten folks' hand off for it. But it's all about going forward from now. At least that, for a few days, quietens down all the noise a little bit, and let's just hope that we build on it going forward.
Yeah, it has to be a building block, Kenny. I said about the possession already, but one of the things that really interested me was I was speaking to the Hibs boys, press boys afterwards. Now, listen, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Hibs Press Association guys, the media team from Hibernian, are absolutely fantastic. I think Adam's the boy that's in charge, and the team he's got there, they give us access to Easter Road. They're well aware that we're a Rangers podcast and everything, and they're absolutely brilliant with us. So I was chatting away with them afterwards, and I said I was kind of expecting more from Hibs throughout that game, and he said to me, "Do you know what? We couldn't get the ball. We just couldn't get the ball. The way Rangers rotated it, the way they kept it, we just could not get the ball. Our analyst guys are telling us we just couldn't get anywhere near. We were supposed to be where we are, but Rangers just moved it quickly." And I took that as a real positive. And when I rewatched the game, and I already thought it during the vlog, I was kind of highlighting that a wee bit, Scotty and I. And I hope people enjoyed the vlog, by the way. It's always nice when you catch a goal, and we decided to stick with the corner for Nico Raskin's header, which was enjoyable. Kenny, look, I'm taking this as a positive. Now, there's another way to look at it. We kept the ball and didn't do very much with it. And chances, maybe we had to wait to the end of the game before we got more chances. But I'm taking that as a building block of something. I'm not going to sit here, and we all know how we feel about the performances and things so far. But to be positive, I'm really hoping that this can be the first in a kind of step towards better performances and things.
I think it actually will be. We're a work in progress, Stevie, and if you cast all the kind of noise about Russell Martin to the side for a moment, and I know that's not possible, but you know what I mean, where you look at the squad, there's 14 new players in that squad, that it's a massive rebuild, Stevie, and yeah, we've had teething problems, there's no doubt. We've been pretty poor most weeks, but I actually agree with what the boys over at Hibs have said to you there. I didn't get to the game because I was working, as I said to you, and so I sat in the house and watched it. And as I say, even the first half hour, we had an awful lot of the ball without doing a huge amount with it. And when you look at the way we are moving the ball, it is much, much quicker. There's no doubt in that. We moved it quicker on Saturday than we have done for a long time. Noticeable at the back as well. The back, going from Butland to the centre halves, that was much quicker as well. Nico Raskin driving forward, as you said, Diamandi holding and playing a key role. I thought Asgard deserves a big mention for that in terms of the ability that he has to keep the ball and move it, and moving it kind of effectively without looking, glamorous in any way. Really quite good. Davie mentioned Gassam. Yeah, I thought Mikey Moore wasn't as bad as people said. I think what the problem was on the right-hand side is Tavernier's playing a slightly different role from Makoma. And when you look at what Tavernier was doing, he was kind of going inside and past him a lot, which was leaving him doubled up. It was kind of weirdly, there was no real space there. So a lot of the time the ball was coming backwards in the first half from Young Moore. But there's a player in there, I think you can tell, you can see from the drive in the second half, he's hit that from about 30 yards and he's literally about a foot past the post. He's done really well. But for me, more than anything else, Stevie, it's the pace that the ball was moving at was noticeably different on Saturday. And as I say, I'm trying to be reasonable today and just say that we are a work in progress. We need to, in terms of not being the finished article, we need to be a little bit more patient than we are sometimes. But results give you patience. That will give you a little bit more patience. So if you can build on that, and the squad can build on that and take confidence, because I thought it was notable, and this is what I was going to say, really notable that going 2-0 in at half time, 2 goals at perfect time, really, that the second half they did play with a lot more confidence, Stevie. They really did.
Yeah, I think you could see that, Davie. But there's a comment here which I wanted to bring up, which is interesting because it says we were lucky that Hibs' goal was chopped off. Well, yes and no, because the Hibs goal shouldn't have stood for a handball. We were very unlucky the week before that we had 2 or 3 decisions ruled against us. But it would be amiss to not mention this because I think it's clear. If you were in the stadium on Saturday, you would have felt it. As soon as that Hibs goal went in, the chanting began, the discontent began, the booing began, and it all became, it's almost like we're waiting on that, or people in the crowd are waiting on that one moment to get right onto Russell Martin again. Now, there's a lot of people saying it changes nothing on Saturday, and I understand it. I don't think it does either. I think you need to go on a sustained winning run of form and performances before anybody will buy into what we're doing here, rightly or wrongly. And I get Russell Martin still has support. Not everybody feels like that, but it feels like the majority do. And Davey, it would be remiss not to say that had that goal have stood, the atmosphere was going exactly as it was in previous days when you have seen the chanting and things against Martin. Now, it didn't really get off the ground because it was very quickly ruled out by VAR, but that unpleasant tension is certainly in the ground and remains there, and there's a lot of work to be done before that goes away. Do you think that's fair?
I think it's very fair, and I also think if we're going to talk about the atmosphere in the ground, I think we should also mention the number of empty seats as well. It's not just about protests and banners. It's also about persuading people to come back and watch Rangers again, because I think a few people have decided they'd rather not do it at the moment. But when it comes to those inside the ground on Saturday, I mentioned earlier on, I thought it was important to the team that they scored the first goal at the weekend, and I think that showed exactly why it was important we scored the first goal at the weekend, because the atmosphere would have got progressively worse if Hibs had went a goal up. And I think it's got to be said, and you've said it, that it was the correct decision to chalk it off. In fact, it just makes the Hearts handball the week before all the more ridiculous that it wasn't chalked off, because it was miles more blatant than Boyle's. But the bottom line is both of them put the ball in the net after they had controlled the ball with a hand. Or the ball had hit their hand before they scored. So both should have been chalked off. When it comes to the protest inside the ground, I've got no problem with fans expressing their views. All the posters or the demonstrations outside, they're entirely entitled to do that. And let's be honest, it's been coming for a while, going by what we've been watching. I must admit, I was a wee bit less enamoured with the balls getting thrown in the pitch 10 minutes into the game, whenever that was. That's something I hope nobody's got an idea of doing this Thursday, because if we throw anyone on the pitch during a UEFA game, then I dread to think what will happen after that, because we're on a suspended sentence at the moment, aren't we, in terms of behaviour at Ibrox. So that absolutely can't happen, and no matter what happens during the game, no matter how unhappy people are, I hope nobody's got an idea of doing that on Thursday. But
David, can I just
sure.
quickly say something, and I'll see if you agree. I thought we started well, again, without being a threat in the first 10 minutes, so we were knocking it about well. I think that put us off. And for that 10 minutes afterwards, I thought Hibs were the better side, and they kind of came into it. And I think it did put us off our stride. And I would rather any protests are kept to in the stands.
Absolutely, you'll not hear me disagreeing with that. The thing about that particular throwing the balls on, I don't know what it was meant to achieve. The point's already been made at that point. There's been 2,000 of folk outside demonstrating that everybody could hear. Posters getting put up when the teams came out. The usual chants during the game. What was it meant to do? And I'm not actually sure what point it proved that they hadn't already expressed an opinion on. But you're right, the 10 minutes after it, I thought we kind of went off course a little bit, and that's when Boyle missed a sitter actually just after it. He put it over the bar when he should have scored. And in fact, he missed a header just before half-time as well, which I think was a really important moment in the game. But yeah, I'm with you in that I think that there's different groups of Rangers supporters just now. There's ones that don't believe in Russell Martin particularly, but are hoping that he goes on a winning run and proves us wrong. And I'm one of them, right? But there are some, and you can see it in the comments tonight, there are some who I think have made their mind up, and it's going to take a minor miracle to turn them round. That minor miracle has to be a big long run of winning games, and preferably also winning the first trophy of the season, because we're only 2 games away from that. If we can do those things, then who knows, the atmosphere might change in the support.
Yeah, there's a lot of ifs and buts. I'm willing to give it a game at a time at this moment in time. We'll come to Russell Martin because he had some things to say, which was interesting, Kenny. But before we move on from the game, Nico Raskin did make it back into the team. And I talked before about 4-2-3-1 and Nico being one of the sitting two that has got a license to go forward would have suited him perfectly, especially against Celtic and then, unfortunately, against Hearts. Now, it's not like Nico Raskin has been excellent in the games he's played. He's suffered as much as anyone else, right? But I think in a certain system where you get the best out of him, he's by far our best player, and I'll continue to say that. And that's only my own opinion. I understand people are maybe have different, and that's fine. But Russell Martin came out afterwards and says we've found a role for him, which I found a bit perplexing. You haven't found a role for him. It's the same fucking role that he's excelled in when he's been here and playing well, especially under Barry Ferguson. So that frustrated me a wee bit because it was almost like he had to make it again about what he had done and everything else. It's not. Nico Raskin's our best player when you play him properly and in those positions. But Nico Raskin overall, Kenny, he's got to keep turning in those performances as much as, you know, we can say, Russell, you've got to play him and everything else, fine. But he's also got to keep performing like that also. And I think he showed on Saturday just how good he is.
Yeah, he was by far the best player on the pitch, Stevie. And who'd have thought that putting the boy in a natural position where he feels comfortable would have worked? It's kind of odd, isn't it, that we've been saying that since the start of the season on here. No doubt several other podcasts have been saying the same. Every Rangers fan has probably been saying it. Just going to play him in his natural position. Highly notable that the majority of players, perhaps with the exception of Mikey Moore on the right-hand side, were all playing in their favoured positions, if you like, on Saturday, and we got a much more balanced looking outfit. So that's interesting. But on Nico Raskin, look, we know what Nico Raskin can do, and Russell Martin had said something a few weeks ago about it doesn't matter what anybody's done previously here. He's at the wrong club if he thinks what people have done previously here is going to be forgotten. We are probably the world's most I don't know what the word is. We will remember everything positive about our football club for decades. So don't be doing that, because without being disrespectful to anybody, but Nico Raskin's got more credit in the bank than Russell Martin has, and playing him in his natural position should be as natural to Russell Martin as it should look to us, where you sit and say, well, if he's playing him out really far out wide left, and telling him to stay in a hole, basically, you're not going to get very much out of him. But if you allow him the freedom to do what he does best, which is to effectively win the ball, pass it, to someone and drive forward and create space and create opportunities. You just need to see the second goal as a perfect example of being allowed to, a little bit of freedom to manoeuvre himself about the pitch, and he can see things. Because the wee pass over to Mikey Moore is an absolute peach of a wee pass. It's just a wee dinked 15, 20-yard ball, Stevie, but it's what he's capable of, and it's the first time I've seen that in many, many a week from Rangers, where you've got somebody literally 6 yards out, capable of, having a strike, because we've not been able to do it. So that's what Nico Raskin brings to the team. We all know, I'm saying that, I agree with you, put it that way. Nico Raskin's our best player. And if you think, I don't want again to go hark on about this, but if you look at the Belgian national squad, they pick 5 midfielders in it, Stevie. For a nation with that kind of quality, they pick 5 midfielders in the squad, and he's in it every single time. So he's one of the top 5 midfielders in Belgium. It says it all that the chaos that's been going on about our football club, that we've missed him. Put it that way.
And the reason I brought up Andy's comment is not everybody agrees that Saturday was better. I don't think any of us are sitting here saying that it was a sparkling performance, but what we do want it to be is a building block for better. I think we've all made our feelings clear about Russell Martin and how we think this is going to end and everything else, but it would be a pretty poor show if we just came on and were ultra negative all the time and just said, look, it's never going to change until he's out, or, the football's still this, the football's still that. If there's signs of positivity, I'm going to promote them and try and do our best to look at that. It'd be pretty boring otherwise. And I do think there was some signs. Now, however, Nico Raskin on Saturday, I thought got himself centrally, positionally better. And I could see when the manager was talking about them being anxiety and stuff like that, they never really tried the through balls. They never really ventured. It was safe. It was safe. Right, and I think that's where we were, and we got the goal at the right time. It was a great run by Nico. We've spoke about that before, but it brings me to another point in the game, Davie, and this is a really interesting one for me, because Russell Martin protests after 10 minutes. They didn't really get the backing in the stadium that they thought they might have got. The chants never really went anywhere. However, on 50 minutes when the Patrick Stewart banner went up, that was a completely different reaction from the support. There was an overwhelming support for those banners, a very noticeable round of applause from almost everyone. And that was a noticeable reaction from the Rangers fans. What did you make of that response? Because I found it particularly interesting. It was for me, it was an overwhelming backing of what the UB and the banner said.
Yeah, it's all been aimed at Russell Martin up until Saturday there. I do think Saturday was the first time we saw that the anger and the discontent is percolating upwards from the head coach. Well, let's be honest, Patrick Stewart hasn't done anything to get his own side, really, has he? Ever since he took the job over. I mean, if you ask me what Patrick Stewart's done as Rangers chief executive, I'll sit and I'll say he backed Clement, then sacked him within a fortnight. I'll say that he turned on the fans for the Graham Souness banner when he thought it was somebody else on it, because he hasn't a bloody clue who Graham Souness is. I'll say he appointed Russell Martin when probably everyone said he shouldn't have done. And every time I read minutes of meetings with fans, the fans that write it always come across as if they think he's ignoring them a bit and speaking down to them. So I'm absolutely not surprised that he is incredibly unpopular. If you throw in the fact that we all know he's not a Rangers man, we all know he comes from a different stock, if I put it that way. It's no great surprise that he's not popular. What it'll mean in terms of his future, I don't know, other than he now knows how unpopular he is. Whether it'll actually change anything in the short term, I very much doubt. But I think it is interesting that even in days that we're 2-0 up in a cup tie, we look as if we're going to go through to a cup semi-final, a big proportion of the crowd still find time to vent displeasure at the chief executive, and I think that tells a pretty plain fact about what he's thought of in terms of his popularity.
Kenny, it was a very interesting reaction from the sport. We've had our say on Patrick Stewart, I think, clearly, but that was an interesting reaction. Sometimes, you know what our support are like, right? It's very polarising. Now, I think the reaction towards Russell Martin after 10 minutes or so was interesting, because I think the supporters are like, right, okay, points being made here. We need to concentrate maybe on what's happening on the pitch. That can come later. That's me surmising what people might have been thinking. We need to win this game. We're not going to focus on that at the minute, which is interesting from us. But the Patrick Stewart thing was pretty resounding.
It was, and this is a historical thing. From the minute he's got here, he's not endeared himself to us, has he? As a support, I don't think. And there is a way about him that I don't think is particularly. And it's not a personal thing when I say this, before anybody thinks I'm being personal. He just doesn't come across as kind of an amiable or likable person for some reason. And that could be entirely wrong. I've never met him. Might be a very nice person for all I know, but the situation, I think you're kind of hit a little on it a little bit there, where you said that they didn't get the response with the Russell Martin thing, and I think that probably, as I say, I wasn't there, so I can't overly comment on this, Stevie, but I would presume that what that is people turning and saying, no, I'm here to back the team. We've had our protest about that. Forget Russell Martin. We're wanting here. We need to win this game. Therefore, it's kind of done. And if we go down, you'll hear all about it then. But we weren't at that point. It was nothing each, and nothing really came of it. Whereas 50 minutes into a game where everybody's settled, you're 2-0, you're pretty certain that you're going through the tie. Then all of a sudden, Stevie, the face pops up, the banners pop up, and ultimately, the everything that's going on and surrounding the club at this minute in time is down to the CEO. He's the one that's making the high-end decisions here. Therefore, we know the Union Bears don't like him. I haven't heard anybody that I know say that he's particularly doing a great job. They don't see. Now, he might well be doing a fantastic job behind the scenes for all we know, Stevie. But on the face of it, no. And the latest thing that has kind of hacked everybody off, Stephen, I think you have alluded to this as well, was the shit show of a refereeing performance last weekend, and nothing from him. And I think it's these kind of token things that we need to see that we don't see from him an awful lot. And I just think at the end of the day that the buck stops with him. Fans know it. And fans are more than prepared to voice something like that over the years, Stevie, than to interrupt the team when they're trying to play. Because I just feel that, I totally agree with Davie as well, with the ball throwing thing. I just don't get it. I just don't understand the point in that. But on the Patrick Stewart thing, on screen, it came across that there was a lot of applause, and quite a lot and loud applause, if you know what I mean. It came across because I was like wondering what it was, and then it panned over because I thought it was a minute's applause for something, and then it panned over to the Union Bears and showed you what it was for, and you're like, oh, that's quite noticeable. So, listen, again, I don't really know what else to say, mate, apart from he's digging himself into a corner, and the more it's that don't back down, double down thing, and he seems to have this ability to be looking down upon us from an ivory tower that I think a lot of us don't like.
Kenny, something you said there for me is quite true. That see if Patrick Stewart was an unlikable figure, right, within the football stadium, within the staff and the support, but he had the balls to back Rangers when it really mattered. I don't really care how much Patrick Stewart's liked if he was doing what we want him to do. Now, Rangers are backed into a corner at the moment because they can't come out and say we're doing things with the stadium. We can't come out and say this is our plan, because see, at the moment we're second bottom of the league and nobody really cares, and it would be looked upon as moonbeams as such. And I understand that from the football club. I get it completely. So there's a lot we don't know about. And it's obvious when Patrick Stewart's trying to make change at the football club that, you know, if we've got staff in there that have been there for a long time, negative stuff's going to come out. So I completely get all that and I understand it. But fans, when they only see what we can see, and there's a vacuum, we will fill it with the only things that we can see. And what we can see is Patrick Stewart turning on us pretty quickly when the banners come out and sucking up the arse of our greatest rivals, apologising and everything else. That for me is a massive no-no. And then second to that, see when we do really need our club to fight back and stand up, like the stuff with the refereeing last week, that's the time that you come out and back us and fight our corner. Because we know if it had happened at the other side, for all they hate Peter Lawwell and everything, and by the way, they fucking hate him. Honest to God, they absolutely detest him over the road. See, when stuff like that happens, Celtic will burn the place down until they get a response, whereas we look weak and we don't say anything. And you know what? See if it's behind the scenes and everything else. I've said this before. Leak it to your friends. There's friends in the media, Chris Jack, whoever you want to tell, leak it out so that the fans are at least aware that we're doing something. See, when you sit, fans just think, oh, there's Patrick Stewart sitting with his thumb up his arse, he's not doing anything. But wait until, something happens towards him and then he'll react or whatever. That's how it feels. If you create a vacuum of that, people will fill it with the only things that we're seeing and not what's maybe a bigger picture of what's happening behind the scenes, etc. Do you think that's relevant? Do you think that's fair? Because that's how I feel.
Absolutely fair. This is a PR thing, Stevie. And it is literally a PR thing. You're bang on about the team across the city, Celtic, where what had happened to them last Saturday had, what happened to us had happened to them last Saturday. We'd still be hearing about it.
It did happen. See that Hearts game where the boy nearly took his head off and he was sent off? Christ, it nearly went to Parliament, mate. And we just sit and we allow it to happen. How many times has this happened in the last 12 months? Cup finals and all sorts where Rangers sit and we're feeble. That's my biggest issue. And it's probably the biggest issue with the support and why everyone's pissed off. I can't speak for anyone, but I can only judge by things that are coming back to me. You're fighting the wrong battle, Patrick Stewart. Fight the one that's right in front of us, and it's not Rangers.
Yes, because half the time he seems to be battling against his own supporters, and that's just bad PR. It's just nonsense to kind of do that. And this is what I'm saying. You're saying about apologising to Celtic for a banner that was. Listen, if you think he thinks that's offensive, he's not watched Scottish football in the last 10, 15 years with some of the garbage that we've had to endure. So that is a massive own goal for him to do that. But it's the whole scenario with me for Patrick Stewart, guys, because he just doesn't seem to be doing what we as a support want him to do in terms of being the public face to turn around and, as you say, get that out. Turn around and say to the SFA quite publicly, this is not acceptable. That is a 5-point swing last week. Now, we've got our own problems and troubles to seek, so it's not. I'm not harking on about a 5-point swing for the sake of it, but effectively it's a 5-point swing where it's tough enough at this minute in time for us to get a result. It doesn't help when decisions as bad as that are happening, and our CEO is nowhere to be seen. He's more intent in turning around and saying Russell Martin's going nowhere. Well, that's fine, but say it once and get on with the day job of turning around and taking the SFA and the referees to task, because it's things like that. But there's a number of things, Stevie, as I say, about him that kind of wind me up a little bit. But again, I'm in total agreement with you. I can't turn around and say that what you said is wrong in any way, shape, or form, mate. I totally agree.
As I said, it may be not right, but sometimes that's how it comes across to the everyday fan, and that's exactly what I am. I'm not privileged to what's going behind the scenes and what they're doing at Ibrox. We can only judge it in what we've seen, and so far it hasn't been good. But Davie, we'll move on. Russell Martin, in the press conference, I predicted he would, and I found it quite funny actually. I was laughing at the time. Now I'm going to journey back to Philippe Clement, and I had a bit of a go at Philippe Clement in a press conference. I said to him that his football was boring and there was too many long balls. And subsequently, in the very next game, we beat Steaua Bucharest 4-0. And he came into the press conference and he came up to me. He didn't do it on camera. He didn't do it. He came up and he nudged me and said, "How was that tonight? Not enough long balls." And he laughed, shook my hand, and he went up and done his press conference. And it was absolutely spot on. And I thought it was funny. And I wouldn't have minded that. And if he had dug me out on it at all, I wouldn't have minded it. But it was a wee bit of class and from Philip Clement. And I've told people this before. And we all laughed and we all thought it was funny. And everybody was saying, "I get tore into him, Phil," and stuff like that. And he had a laugh. I thought that on Saturday, as much as I laughed at Russell Martin, I almost found it inevitable, Davey, that he would come back at me. And I would rather Russell Martin for the next 6 months did ram that down my throat, but I'd also rather he waited a wee bit before he got into it. But it was an interesting thing because a lot of people have said to me that Russell Martin's arrogant and he's egotistical and he can't take criticism. And that's why Nico Raskin's out the team, because he criticised his tactics and everything else, and he got dumped out because of it. And now we're in a position where he's had criticism in a press conference, and the very next one he's having a pop back, and it's clearly irked him because he's mentioned it 2 or 3 times. What did you make of that comment? I think I thought it was funny. I think he's got a right to do it, but at the same time, does it show us something about Russell Martin that he maybe can't take criticism if he's having a pop straight back? And why did Nico Raskin find himself out the team if he's doing stuff? Is people adding 2 and 2 together, making 4 and 5 instead? You know, what's going on here?
I can't get myself too overly excited about it either way, to be honest. I just think that he took a lot of criticism the week before, quite rightly. And I think the one that came from you is the one that struck a nerve most with him. Because let's be honest, we didn't look particularly well organised against Hearts. Call it coach, call it whatever you like. We didn't look organised. He was just getting a little bit of his own back because he'd won a game. Now, there's an argument in my head, which is he maybe should have waited until he wins 3 or 4 or 5 games before he wants to take a pot back. But I don't blame him for doing it, because it's obviously something that, I mean, the guy's not a manager, he's a head coach, and you're saying the team's not coached. So suppose when you think about it, the criticism has cut right into what his job title actually is. So I'm not surprised that he took exception to it. I'm not surprised that he maybe was feeling a bit prickly about it. Is he able to take criticism? Maybe not, but there's loads of folk like that. Why should he be particularly different? I think there's loads of managers that when you see them in press conferences remember things from months before and try and cast it back up again. Well, why should he be any different? I just think it's part of the sport of going to the press conferences and asking questions to these guys. But for me, it's more important that he gets the opportunity to cast it up to you again next month and the month after and the month after. Because if that happens, then maybe we did misjudge him. Because at the moment, all it is one swallow, and that doesn't make a summer just yet, does it? So let him get his comeback at you, but let's also see that we are actually in the right road before he gets himself too ahead of himself.
Kenny, I thought it was funny. I said to you that it was coming and that it would happen. Does it tell us a wee bit about Russell Martin, that he maybe can't take criticism, or he was stung by that? And I don't listen. See if in 3 or 4 months we're holding the League Cup and we're beating Celtic and won that final, and it says better coaching on the t-shirt or something. I'll find that really funny and I'll be delighted. Nobody wants Rangers to win more than me, believe me. And but was it? What did you make of it? There's been a lot said about it since, and I'm of the opinion that he's had his pop, I've had mine, we move on. I certainly don't want to become a subplot in it. I did think it was quite funny. And what was even better is he tried to do a kind of mic drop thing and walk out, and then somebody asked him about Rothwell and Cameron being injured, so he had to sit down. He drew me a look like I'd shat in his kettle, which was unfortunate. But if Russell Martin's able to ram that down my throat in 6 months' time and Rangers are sitting pretty and we're going for shiny things, then I would be absolutely delighted. And I'd also claim it was my fault for riling and motivating the team and the management anyway, so it's a win-win for me.
To be frank, mate, I thought you were bang out of order with him last week. I thought it was a appalling way to talk to the Rangers head coach. But
so it has been you emailing me all those things then, huh?
Look, I'm going to say this, right? Because I'm like Davey. I can see it from both points of view. And if to try and draw a line under this as best we can, right? That I thought you were spot on with your question. Is it a little bit raw in terms of the language? Yeah, but it's emotional and it's how you were feeling at that particular time. And you're not a journalist. You're not there to ask journalist questions. You're asking a fan's question. And that's where I think he's perhaps taken exception to the industrial language of it, if you like, where you don't look coached and are you going to resign? And it's up to him, clearly. But my issue with that is that I think he's got every right to turn around and fire back at you for that. Of course he has, right? However, pre-match, he turned around and said something about, well, he'd mentioned the comment on the Friday, as you know, about not being coached and, you know, to sit here with, you know, with someone telling me my team don't look coached. So he's obviously, it's got right under his skin. But then pre-match, he turned around and he said something about, you know, at this club, it becomes a kind of personal thing, and it's not about me. That's what he said pre-match. It's not about me. There's loads of people here. It's about staff and coaches and players and everybody else. And then after it, it's still up to him. Where I'm like you, I would have much rather appreciated if he had turned around. Maybe it's just his nature, I don't know. But I would have much rather, or much more appreciated if he had done what Philip Clement had done and looked down upon you from a great height, because he's a big tall guy and you're not, and looked at you and turned around and made a joke of it, and turned around and said, you can stick that up your hoop, mate. And that would have been a better way for him to deal with it, instead of, as you say, try to mic drop the thing. And then, I mean, I just hope that Russell moves on from it, because I don't think, I know you, Stevie, and I don't think it's a personal thing with you towards Russell Martin at all when you ask something like that. I know what you're like with me, and you're a cheeky git sometimes, mate, so it's just your nature. You're just that way. So it's just what it is. And for me, that's the thing I took most out of it, Stevie, is that he's almost contradicting himself at times with his attitude towards it, where he's trying to say it's not about me, but he's making it about him before and after game, and on the Friday, he's making it all about him and how offended he is by a comment like that. Don't be offended, mate. You're at the wrong football club if you're going to get offended with people throwing abuse at you, because it's kind of what we do. We will analyse everything to the nth degree, and emotion will get the better of us sometimes, but it's never personal, and it's never meant to cause harm.
Oh, well, need to be a pretty big dartboard if you've got this coupon on it, that's for sure. Davie, one final bit of business. Celtic in the semi-final, but for me, that's something that needs to just be parked at the moment. My focus is on Genk, it's on Livy. This has bought Russell Martin a wee bit of time, maybe in the eyes of some. The football, it won't look, you know, we've talked about positives, but it wasn't sparkling. Nobody's trying to make it out that it was. Nobody's trying to say it was world beaters or anything. It's certainly not. It hasn't really changed my opinion on what's going to happen. But I certainly hope that opinion's wrong. But Genk and Livy, they're must wins. There's no other way, because at the moment he's on. Somebody said it in the comments, and I think this is absolutely fantastic. He's almost on a game-to-game contract in the eyes of the fans. And that's probably the most accurate thing that I've read.
That actually is a good way of putting it. Absolutely. Good God, we could go into Livingston game at the weekend, bottom of the league. I won't tell everybody what age I am, but I don't think I've ever seen Rangers bottom of the league after 5 or 6 games in a season. And I can go back a long way. It's absolutely unthinkable. I was actually looking at the league table today, and I didn't realise that only Hearts and Celtic have won more than one game. There must have been a hell of a number of draws in the league this season. But a couple of wins will shoot you up quite a few places. I think Dundee went up about 5 places on Saturday by winning one game. But 11th in the league is an absolute embarrassment. 12th, if it happens by Saturday, is an even worse embarrassment. We've got to put a string of wins together. We absolutely have to. Yeah, I'm not ignoring the Genk game, but I'm just telling you where my priority currently sits. Our league position has to improve and improve immediately. If the manager thinks was under pressure after the Hearts game, see if we lose to Livingston next Sunday, it'll be absolute pandemonium. And what's the best way of going about winning it? I don't think there's too many changes needed from the team on Saturday on Thursday night. I personally would probably play Ant-Man in the right instead of Moore, but other than that, I'd be tempted to go with almost the same 11 again. And if they can get a half decent result, get a win on Thursday night, I would probably keep the team with as few changes as possible for a little while and let it bed in and try and get our results together. Because the head coach needs it if he wants to stay in a job, but far more important than that, Rangers need to win games, need to get up that league table.
Yeah, that goes without saying. Right, I think we'll call it a night here. I wanted to say one thing before we'd left, folks. This is Kamar Roof's Two Halves Journal. We have got a competition up for YouTube members. There's 600 odd YouTube members. And I don't know if I'm doing it wrong or people just aren't seeing it. It's in your members only video. Go and enter that competition because hardly anyone has. Now, I don't want to say that's because people aren't interested, because everybody has watched but judging by the numbers, everyone has watched Kamar's podcast with us. So I want to give it a wee bit more time. We actually have, believe it or not, we've got a great thing. Pie Sports, everybody might know about them. They sponsor all the Scottish clubs and their pies are everywhere. We actually work with them and they have given us some pies to give away. So we want to do that. And because obviously I'm on a diet, I certainly don't want to keep them. And they've had kebab pies and all sorts. The ones that they always sponsor Partick Thistle and everybody raves about them. And the boys are great over there. So they've given us a case of them to give away and they'll deliver them right to your door on a Friday afternoon in time for the football at the weekend. So we want to do that. But before we do that and we go and work with the guys at Pie Sports, we want to make sure all the members have had a chance to enter the Two Halves Player Journal. It's signed by Kamar Roof as well. There's 3 to give away. So go and enter that, folks. I'll keep it open for a few more days. If you don't, then we'll pick from the winners. I think there's 12 or 13 entries so far. So if you're a YouTube member, please go and check it out. That's the sales pitch gone. It's a free sales pitch, by the way. If you're a member, just go and enter. So that's all it is. You have to watch me for a minute, which is, sorry about that. But apart from that, it's free to enter. But Davie, thank you, mate. Much appreciated. Nice, shiny Monday show. Always love it, mate. Thank you.
My pleasure. It's been great as always talking to my two amigos here. Definitely is a different atmosphere when you've won on the Saturday, isn't it? So let's hope next Monday we're smiling again.
Yeah, there's a few people saying how to enter. Check it out where. It's on the members page in YouTube. Go into YouTube and if you're a member, you have access to members only videos. In the members only video, you will find it. I will also link it. And in the community, there's a post that I put out tonight. It's got the link on it as well. So stick the link in there. So maybe am I just making this too and maybe it is. It's weird. Maybe people don't know where it is in the members video. I don't know. Kenny, thank you, mate, as ever. Much appreciated. We'll be back on Wednesday with Chris.
Yeah, we will. And enjoyed that. As Davie says, much better to talk about a win than the rubbish we've had to watch over the last month or so. So looking forward to Thursday. I think I'm going with you, Amina, Stevie, so that'll be good fun. And Genk are sitting 14th in the league at the minute, out of 16, third bottom of the league. It's a must win. And let's just say that again. It's a must win. And one very quick thing about Kevin Thelma. I think we're all the boys saying about, game to game. Kevin Thelma's already told us that the results have to improve very, very quickly. So I think he might not be far off game to game with the board already, despite what they're saying.
Well, we'll see. I just hope we keep winning. Nice just keep winning, talking about shiny things and not being where we are at this present moment, that's for sure. Thank you to our sponsors, Rhino Express, Clydeview Fire Protection and Joinery, Athlon Industrial Solutions, CSD Air Conditioning, Carlo, Ian, Jim, Mando, all the team. We really appreciate all the sponsor support, as well as our partners, Black Rooster and Art of Gold. I promise at some point somebody will win the Black Rooster competition. Nobody tipped a Rangers victory on Saturday. Maybe that gives you an indication of where we are as a fan base. But yeah, somebody will win Black Rooster soon. That'll be up as well on the members page as well, match day before Thursday. So please, if you remember, go and enter it. It's free. Just predict your score, etc. And you could win some free scran for you and all the family. At some point, somebody will win it. Well done to the team and the management. Good result on Saturday. Let's build it on it Thursday. We'll be back on Wednesday night, 7 o'clock. Myself, Kenny, and Chris for your midweek Rangers podcast. Until then, have a great couple of days, folk. Take care. Thanks for joining us. Bye for now.
The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.